YCC Episode 7, Scene 1, Take 1. Put that over there. Okay. Hi, I'm Barry Young, owner of Young Camera Company. Welcome to YCC. Let's take a very brief tour about what kind of facilities that have been built here and what the situation is. The plan is to eventually make a series of aluminum-bodied ultra-large format and panoramic cameras. These are large cameras, and so you need to be able to melt aluminum to make aluminum castings. This furnace on the right does just that. This will take up to a 22-inch automobile rim, and out of the bottom of it, it drips molten aluminum into ingots like this. We cast the raw aluminum made from wheels into ingots like these. Then these go into a crucible in that furnace on the left there, and we refine the aluminum here, heat it up to the correct temperature, and then pour it into a sand mold. In the box behind Tyler here, we have a truck bed box. This is filled with a special olivine sand, which is just a sharp silica sand mixed with bentonite clay. Essentially, that's what it is. We ram that into a flask like you'll see in the other videos from Myford Boy, and then we open the mold, take out the pattern, close the mold, and pour in aluminum where the pattern was. So that's really the quick version. Let's go ahead and go in the shop. This is not necessary, but I like it. Okay. So this is really Young Camera Company. This is my shop. I've been working on it for 5 years. I've been collecting machinery for about 10. So, first of all, we start out with hardware storage. This is all special hardware. Eye bolts, horseshoe washers, key stocks, set screws, hitch pins, that sort of thing. Anything that's not a regular threaded fastener goes in these boxes. Over here we have a little heat treat furnace behind the door. And when we make a steel part, we make it out of soft steel and then heat it up to the critical temperature, usually 1550 degrees, and then quench it, which hardens the outside of the part. This will make it wear longer, and I don't know, it makes good parts. I have a little drill press with a 3/4 inch countersink bit in here, and I use this exclusively. Every time I make a part with holes, I come over, turn this on, and move the part up against it to deburr the holes. Okay. This bench here is made of 5 Harbor Freight toolboxes, and it's chock full of like plastics and extra tools, nut drivers, plug gauges, measuring instruments. It's just packed with tools and actually materials. We have a special grinder here for grinding lathe tool bits, and when you're making a high-speed steel tool, that's a very handy machine to have. Okay, moving down, you'll notice there's a chop saw here because we also make cameras made of wood. So we've assembled not only a metalworking machine shop, but also a full woodworking shop. And you can see that there's valves built in all over the place, all over the shop, that go to a dust collector located on the alley here. So it's in another room, so I don't have to hear it. Same thing with the air compressor. There's compressed air fittings all over the place, hanging from the ceiling, coming down on the sides of the walls, where we can just plug a hose in and go. Over here we've got
For the air, did you use PVC or iron pipe?
black pipe.
Black pipe?
Yeah, steel pipe. Because I never want to get up there again. Okay. PVC, they tell me after 10 years or so becomes brittle and can explode.
Even Schedule 80.
Yeah. So I just, pipe was an easier solution for me at the time. This is a little tiny instrument maker's lathe, and you can see that it has collets all the way down to a 1/64 of an inch. Okay, and that, you put the raw material 1/64 of an inch and then turn it down from there. This is tiny. Okay, so that's a little lathe that I'm kind of just rebuilding at the moment. Back here we have an air gauge, and from here around to here is 1 thou and 7/10, or about half the thickness of a human hair. So we build a special plug that fits the hole, and then we can gauge that hole within about 10 millionths of an inch in diameter. I need that for some precision work that I do on some gun stuff. Okay, here's a 24 by 36, I'm sorry, 18 by 24 surface plate. This is the measurement standard for young camera company. We couldn't afford the 4-foot by 8-foot one or the room to store it, so there you go. This is probably the best deal out there in metalworking tools today. This is the Harbor Freight horizontal bandsaw, and these things are dirt cheap, under 300 bucks, and I probably get 300 bucks a year's worth out of it. I use it all the time, every time I work in here. Okay, this is a Grizzly cabinet maker's table saw, and the shop's kind of a mess right now. We weren't really ready for a tour, but conditions allowed this tour to be filmed by someone else. I've been trying to make this film for years, so thank goodness Tyler's here. Anyway, cabinet maker's saw. We got a jointer over here. The jointer makes a straight edge on the edge of a board. The table saw does virtually everything else. Underneath here's a generator that can run any one machine in this shop at a time. So if we should have an interruption in power, maybe I'll find out if it works one day. Here's a couple of more woodworking machines. This is a mortising machine, and it looks like a drill press, which I suppose it is kind of a drill press, except this drills square holes in wood, which is really strange. At first, you have to understand why, and I can show you. There's a drill bit inside a square-shaped chisel, so the drill removes most of the waste, and then the chisel just works its way down, making a square hole. This is an incredible invention. I hope the guy's rich. This is a thickness planer, and what it does is it allows me to prepare boards to the correct thickness within about 3/1000 of an inch, and it's again hooked up to the dust collector here. That was quite an interesting design project, coming up with that particular dust collector hood there, and it works really well. Very happy with that. Over here is a 14-inch Grizzly bandsaw. Great machine. I love my Grizzly equipment. I've modified it a little bit. I lost the blade guard over here, so I took a piece of board and made one. Anyway, nice machine. This is something I just got. This is a Grizzly 6-inch wide and 9-inch disc belt sander. I am just rebuilding this. When I got it, there was about 1/8 of an inch of rust on this table, and I've just surface grinded it and finished it, and it looks really nice. I'm happy. I noticed there's a couple of stripes here where there's some inconsistencies inside the cast iron itself. That's just too bad. We're gonna have to live with that. Okay, and then we have a 5-ton punch press, and this is a machine where this portion gets pulled down when you step on the pedal, and you fit different dies in here to punch, form, or shape sheet metal. I'm going to make this so that it produces bullet jackets, okay, because that's something I'm interested in. so that I can make my own jacketed bullets from scratch. This is my current project. This is a Grizzly G0704 milling machine, and we're just converting it to CNC, which was kind of the plan all along. It's very rigid now that I've built 2 shelves and attached it to the wall. Originally, I had this thing running, and it was a new machine when I bought it. It's currently stripped down because I'm modifying it, but I put a boring head in here and the whole thing just shook like crazy. So I built this top shelf to tie the top of the column to the wall, and then I turned it on and the whole middle section went mad. So I had to add this second shelf down here, and now this machine is almost as rigid as a Bridgeport, which is saying a lot. I mean, this thing is rock solid now because of those braces. We've also flipped the Z-axis according to the Haas machine plans. Thank you, Haas, you're awesome. And that gives us 6 inches more vertical travel. Well, this distance between the tabletop and the end of the spindle is a limiting factor on all milling machines. So that extra 6 inches actually gives us more than 19 inches of travel between the table, or distance between the tabletop and the end of the spindle. This is huge. This is a huge range. We also increased the Y-axis travel and changed to ball screws. And we've got these heavy-duty motors, and as you can see, I'm just now doing the wiring on this. It should be a very interesting project when it's completed. This is a 20-ton Harbor Freight hydraulic press, and I can't say enough good stuff about this, but you do have to start making some adapters and stuff. It doesn't, these little plates that come with it, they're just, the distance between them on the holes is just way too big, so it takes some work. We have a little 12-inch sheet metal machine, and this shears, bends, and slip rolls sheet metal up to 12 inches wide. And that's a great machine for somebody who doesn't use a lot of big sheet metal parts. This is a surface grinder, and it's turned off. Let me get this breaker real quick. Thank you, Tyler. This surface grinder used to have this big old beefy cast iron hand wheel up here, and you would move this to move the magnetic chuck, where you actually magnet down your workpiece. And this was, I'm an old guy, and this was just too much work for an old guy. So I built this power feed mechanism, which allows the machine to move by itself. Now all I have to do is this every stroke, and that works really well. Very happy with that. Over here in the corner we have a couple of machines. This machine down here is called a Sun and Hone, and what that's for is grinding the insides of holes, and this will grind to about 20 millionths precision, which is incredible. It's incredibly good. This is a 15-ton punch press, and this will be used for swaging jacketed bullets. You have to press them and smash them together under enormous pressure, about 30,000 pounds per square inch on the inside of the die. And this will marry the lead interior to the copper jacket outside of a jacketed bullet. Okay, this is a bench that's dirty right now, but it's reserved for a CNC lathe. We're going to buy a small lathe and then convert it to CNC, just like we did the G0704 mill. Alright, now the big shots. Okay, there's 4 machines in this part of the shop that are of significance. The lathe, which really is the first machine that you should buy for your machine shop, because you can do milling on this, It's a lot easier to do milling on a lathe than it is to do turning on a mill. So, in the lathe, the workpiece goes into a chuck and revolves, and then we move this cutting tool past it with these handles. On the CNC lathe, that is happening automatically with motors according to a program you've written. This is a Grizzly G0709 14x40 gunsmith lathe, and it is a fantastic bargain. A lot of people think that you should buy an old lathe and restore it, but it would cost more than it cost to buy this lathe to restore an old lathe. And I can't tell you enough good about this. It's been a wonderful machine. It's absolutely straight as an arrow. So I really like this machine. Over here we have a Gorton tool and cutter grinder. This is very much capable. I'm just learning to use it now. We sharpened an end mill for the very first time last night. This particular machine was made in 1945, and it was on a Liberty ship, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, a really, really precise, really good tool and cutter grinder. I bought it so that I could sharpen my own end mills and make my own chambering reamers for making custom rifles. This is a 1936 Atlas shaper, and up to this point we've talked about lathes and milling machines. This particular machine, a shaper, works by moving a ram back and forth, and then there's a power feed on it so it moves the part sideways after each cut. It's truly an amazing mechanism. Okay, so over here we have a Grizzly G0796 milling machine. Now this is a virtually identical copy to a Bridgeport. It's about the same weight. It has the same mechanisms. I've added a little bit of area lighting to make it much more pleasant. It's surprising how much more pleasant it is to work at a machine when you can see well. This machine spins a sharp cutter, and you lock your workpiece into the vise, and then you can move the vise relative to the cutter to cut out your workpiece by removing chips. I've also added a power knee, and I gotta tell you, this is all worth 400 bucks. You betcha. This is a great bargain. I also added another digital readout. This digital readout only does X and Y. This is the one that came with the machine. I added another inexpensive digital readout just for the knee, the up and down mechanism here. And at some point I'll add a scale here for the quill, okay, for Z. Over here is something else I want to show you. This is how I organize taps and dies and drills. All my drills are organized according to decimal equivalent rather than the letter, number, or fractional size. This makes it very easy for me because I have one set of drills that is organized by decimal equivalent. Similar to my wrench rack, I have some organizational stuff that really helps me. I've had two people now say that this is just to show off my wrench collection, but I really don't care. It makes it easy for me to find the correct wrench when I need it. Also on the back of the lathe, you'll see another great idea for organization. I bolted a 2x12 onto several pieces which you can see the bolts coming through that hold this thing up. And this holds all of the tools that I regularly use when I use this machine. This makes jobs very fast. This is such an efficient idea. We also over here have oxyacetylene and MIG welding. Gosh, I think that's about it, Tyler.
Your brush cup.
My what?
Your brush cup. I like that.
Okay, this was from Dollar Tree, And it is, I haven't glued it yet. This is a paper clip container. A magnetic one, I think. I think there's a magnet in here. Anyway, I hot melt glued 4 or 5 neodymium magnets in the bottom of this, so it actually sticks to the work surface and it's not likely to get knocked off. If it gets tipped over, the shape of the inside of this keeps it from spilling, and yet there's a very nice opening that will take this acid brush. I think this is a pretty good idea. Again, a workstation dedicated to all of the stuff that I need to run this milling machine. I had another tool in here, but this broke off. It was easier just to put the tool in the drawer. Okay, so anything else, Tyler?
Your drill indexes.
Yeah, well,
Or I mean, end mill indexes and
then
reamers.
paddle bits for cutting wood. Twist drills that are above 1/2 inch, and Forstner bits are up here, and they're all in order by size. So this 7/8, this is 7/8, and this is 7/8. And then I made little blocks like this to store my end mills, my Dremel mounted points, reamers, and I guess there's a couple of spot drills up there. There you go. This is Young Camera Company's equipment list.